Hey guys, thanks for putting up with this and doing it again.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's been a few months.
Listeners should know that we recorded a conversation before. Actually, we tried it on two different. I just kept sabotaging it, so my apologies. And I bought a bunch of new equipment from the Kickstarter campaign, and that's actually what I'm using. We're in good shape.
You succeeded in your Kickstarter, so you're going to have a whole beautiful office.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Well, let's get to it. Last time we tried to do this, and we're talking about your new film, Automatic at Sea. We have producer and actor David Henry Gerson and the director, Matt Lessner. Happy to be here with you guys and happy to talk about the film. Now, didn't this film premiere at Slamdance last year? Because right now we're approaching Slamdance 2018.
Yeah. Yeah, the North American premiere was at Slamdance. Yeah, just about a year ago now. And it's actually nice to talk again because I was filled with a certain amount of anxiety when we spoke before, because when we spoke before, it was right before our screening in New York, and I get kind of hyped up sometimes on the screening day. So I felt a little nervous, and I feel a little better now. So I'm actually glad that we can chat again.
So how did it end up going? I remember I met you guys at the White Hotel where you were having your screening that day, and that's where we did our first attempt at the podcast. How did it end up going?
It went really well. I think it exceeded my expectations, and in some ways I think it might have gone too well. We had a kind of conceptual idea surrounding the screening. This idea that we wanted to try to pull off, and I think we wound up pulling it off so well that it kind of could turn into an Ouroboros, like a snake eating its own tail in a way. I'm not sure. I don't think we shared with you what we were doing at that point because we were trying to keep it kind of secret.
We had to make our event especially fun, and we had our sponsor from Orbitz.
So in the film, as you may have noticed, there are a number of these kind of odd product touchstones. There's one scene in particular where a very kind of key scene where a box is opened and this bottle is revealed, and it's this bottle of soda, this bottle of Orbitz soft drink, which was this soft drink in 1997 that was actually only on the market for like 6 months. It had these little gelatinous balls floating in the bottle, and for some reason, it made a very strong impression upon me as a young man. It just hit me at exactly the right point, and just was kind of surfaced very strongly in my subconscious as we were shooting the film. And it's been this kind of interesting factor anytime we've screened it, because I've often tried to explain to people what this is, because there's a lot of people that might not even be aware what this product is exactly. It was on the market for such a short period of time. And we decided in the screening in New York that we would have this soft drink, Orbitz soft drink, sponsor the event. So we would just decide to sort of inhabit an alternate reality where Orbitz had never gone away, so as if they didn't go off the market after 6 months. And so we went pretty far with this, where we hired an actor to play the artistic outreach director of Orbitz soft drink. We had a number of bottles of Orbitz that we bought on eBay for the film. We had, I think, like 6 of them. They go for kind of top dollar on eBay. We rigged them up with some LED lights. We had a special poster presented by Orbitz, and then a photographer as well who was under the employ of the Orbitz artistic outreach director. And yeah, I think the idea ahead of time was that there would be a certain amount of people who would say, this is what's going on, this doesn't make sense. But it felt like, particularly the actor, did such a good job of kind of fulfilling his role that it felt like people were really kind of buying that this was an actual thing. And it was exciting to me at first. He even did an intro before the film talking about how Orbitz is a kind of soft drink company that thinks in a different kind of way, and it's a perfect match for this film that thinks differently. And I was really excited by it. But then afterwards, I was having conversations with people that were like, I really enjoyed the film, but I felt conflicted because, basically it was just this big commercial for this soft drink. And And I was like, yeah, wow, okay, we really did it. But then, yeah, maybe we ruined the experience for some of these people.
Well, we created an alternate universe experience for a movie about an alternate universe, and some went for it, and some were a little more shocked.
So it was a very meta in-joke type of thing you were pulling off.
Yeah.
Did anybody get the joke?
Yes. Yeah, a few people did who realized that
I did.
Matthew got it. If anyone was amused, it was Matthew.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I think that so much of the film is kind of dealing with this this kind of alternate sense of reality that we kind of increasingly find ourselves in these days. So there was something kind of exciting to me about, and I guess even if people didn't necessarily notice that we were doing it, there's something meaningful to me just in the exercise of it. But I do feel bad if I made it difficult for some people to tolerate just this. But it would be pretty weird if it was just a piece of really elaborate commercial for a soft drink, like to finance this sort of feature-length film that just has one shot of their product in the middle of it.
Okay, so I don't remember Orbitz, but are you telling me that inside of the bottle of the soft drink there are little tiny orbs?
Exactly. These little gelatinous orbs that it almost looked like a boba tea, sort of, except that they were all suspended in this kind of invisible sugar matrix. There was something about the consistency of these balls and then the liquid that they were suspended in, that they're just sort of hovering there, their own mini planets in the Orbitz universe. Yeah.
Did you ever drink this stuff?
Just on one occasion. I have a very clear memory of driving up to a Smashing Pumpkins concert with two of my best friends. My dad was driving us up to Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness tour up in San Jose. And we stopped at a gas station, and Bobby Nelson, who's the biggest Smashing Pumpkins fan amongst us, he always wore the shirt that said 0 on it. He bought a bottle of this Orbitz because it wasn't sold in the small town that I grew up. It wasn't sold like in every store. It was like certain gas stations, maybe you would see it. And he bought this bottle, and for some reason, this moment where he was took the first sip outside this gas station somewhere between Southern Oregon and San Jose, is just seared into my brain in a way that I can't. It would be difficult for me to articulate why exactly that was so powerful. And this stuff tasted horrible. He gave me a sip, and it was very not something I enjoyed in the least. Orbitz. You never tried it. You're making a face like you've never.
Yeah, no, never remember. I don't even remember it at all. It's possible this was a regional product or something like that.
It's possible.
And if it was around for such a brief time, it could easily have missed something like that.
Yeah, you'd have to be really beating the streets to find it there. Yeah.
So it sounds like you really had some performance art going on around the screening then.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, it was a very intimate room with a lot of great people there, and it's kind of a way to have a fun moment together to launch this movie off into the world.
Yeah, it was the day before it was released in the VOD sphere, so that was kind of a nice launch pad there. Yeah, it went well.
Okay, so it's available on demand. I guess you haven't done any other screenings since, or have you?
That was our launch party for the domestic release, and then I flew to Stockholm 2 days later, and we had a screening in Stockholm, which was really exciting because there's a good portion of the film that the voiceover in the film is in Swedish because the lead actress is Swedish. And so it was pretty exciting to be able to share it with the Swedish audience and sort of see how they would respond, because it's obviously a much different thing when you're just kind of reading the subtitles and listening to this kind of lyrical language versus, actually understanding what she's saying. So that was the other screening, and then we did the kind of international VOD in conjunction with that Stockholm release, and then since then, it's just out there,
screening on millions of screens all around the globe.
Top holiday classic, instant holiday classic. I think.
It's the number one film on no top 10 lists of 2017.
Congratulations for that, gentlemen.
Your top holiday.
Well, Automatic at Sea is directed by Matthew Lessner, and it stars David Henry Gerson and, let's see if I pronounce this right, Livia Hyselius. Did I get that right?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
And just to describe the film, the little synopsis of the film, and this is just off the top of my head, Eve, played by Livia, a young Swedish traveler, finds herself stranded on a private island with Peter, played by David Henry Gerson, a wealthy heir whom she barely knows. While waiting for other guests to arrive, Eve becomes trapped in an unstable reality punctuated by feverish visions, dimensional shifting, and secret soft drinks. Secret soft drinks. How can she escape if she's not even sure she's there?
Mm-hmm.
And is it fair to say, let's see, I guess the film immerses you in this very dreamlike place, kind of makes you relate to Livia now that I think about it, and that in terms of what she's going through. But the film it's a little bit experimental at times. It's a little bit spooky. It's a little creepy. Am I getting it right, would you say?
I think that's fair. I've seen it a number of times, and it still gives me the creeps.
Oh, does it really?
It very truly does. I feel like I've seen it, more times than anyone should ever have to see anything, and it still hits me on this kind of visceral level. There's something that I really do find quite haunting about it. I think because a lot of it is coming from my subconscious and coming from the subconscious of the people that we were working with there. I think there are things that hit me, at least, on levels that I don't even fully understand sometimes. I mean, it's kind of joking around about this Orbitz thing, but I don't know if you ever had this experience, but I feel like there are certain things in my life sometimes that have a lot of value or weight, but I can't necessarily intellectually understand why they do. And similarly, sometimes there are things that really terrify me that I can't intellectually communicate to you why they terrify me in this sort of way. But I think the film is really packed with a lot of those things that some of them it might be hard to put into words exactly why they're so impactful to me. But it's exciting when those things can connect to other people, like when my subconscious can kind of communicate with someone else's. Because I've definitely had a few. It feels like it's a film that's certainly not for everybody, but it feels like the folks that it does connect with, it feels like it connects with in a way that's really kind of fascinating to me, particularly because it almost feels like it's this like subconscious to subconscious communication taking place.
I think as a producer, the most exciting part of this movie has been we did a screening once in Poland at the American Film Festival in Poland with Ula Snegowska, and a young, maybe 18, 19-year-old kid sort of came running up to us in the street, really looking Matthew in the eye and saying, thank you for making this movie. It really has sort of blown my mind and touched me in a very deep way. And I think that's kind of your dream, right, is that people see this thing you've been toiling away at for a long time, and that it really changes their viewpoint on the world a little bit. So that was exciting, that it's starting now to find that kind of audience. And then also, back to your creepy point, it's sort of weirdly a film of the times that we live in, inadvertently. It's a film about the horror of having no base, of having no reality, having no ground for truth, and not knowing where things are fake versus real. And that obviously is a horror that we have been, many of us, enduring in the previous year. And so it kind of taps in a weird way to that consciousness.
Can you just talk a little bit about the collaboration that it took to pull this movie off? It's so seems just so much a product of a successful collaboration between you guys and the crew in this very isolated space that you worked in.
But I think the collaboration is a key to this thing. I mean, obviously with any film, but I think we really sought from the beginning to kind of keep the team as small as possible so that those collaborations could be kind of as direct as possible. So in most departments, it was just one person kind of heading up their department. And particularly in terms of the cinematography, Aaron Kowalczyk, who's the cinematographer, it felt like, I don't know, it's definitely like my favorite looking thing that I've ever been a part of. And I think so much of that is this relationship that Aaron and I were able to kind of develop, where we're really kind of, just kind of speaking the same language in a way that was really exciting. And I think, I think like you're saying, also to be able to make something like this that is, obviously not has certain perhaps commercial limitations. It was extremely fortuitous for me to be able to have met David and to have him be willing, because in addition to acting in the film, David produced the film, and to have him really kind of back this vision, which is sort of an unusual one, but to really sort of have that that support has been a pretty exciting ride. Like I feel like it's something now that it's over. I'm kind of in this space of like realizing, sometimes we've had this very like tight partnership for these few years while we've been working on this film, and now that it's kind of done, and I miss that. It's a very unique and special thing to have someone that believes in what you're doing that much to really like support you to do that. And it felt like, I don't know, all the people that we had on the film, it felt like, I don't know, it felt like some very special collaborations to me. Very small group of people all living in a almost camp-like way on the island together. But yeah,
I remember also when I first saw Matthew's film The Woods at Sundance, it reminded me of friends that I had in sort of artist communities that I had met in Martha's Vineyard, which is where we shot the film. And so we were lucky to be able to tap into this really a very special, magical group of people that live on that island, and work with them. And a lot of the people from the island contributed to the film as far as their houses, or as far as their rowboats, or their time, or
convertibles,
their dogs. It was nice to be making the film in a collaborative way, but also to have a community around you. This is probably true of every small movie shooting in small towns, but it really was felt like it was a community making the film, and we really appreciated that.
Yeah.
Now, remember, you shot this on the island of Martha's Vineyard, and by the way, do they still have lots of key parties there at the Martha's Vineyard?
Key parties?
What is a key party?
Oh, you don't know what a key party is?
No.
Well, we'll just move on then. No, it's okay.
Okay.
I've heard of the Tea Party, but not the Key Party.
Yeah. No.
Have you ever seen Ang Lee's The Ice Storm?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like when they used to do this back this was popular like probably in the 70s, maybe into the 80s, but essentially the adult parties where couples would show up and they throw their house, I think their house keys, could be their car keys, but I think it's the house keys, into a bowl when you first come in. And essentially it would end up that you would grab somebody else's keys and you would end up going home with other people. So it was like meant for swingers.
Okay.
That explains how we got so many houses keys to make the movie.
Have you been to a key party yourself?
Well, I see we're running out of time. No, sadly, I've never been invited to a key party.
You're putting it out there into the ether now.
No, I was just kidding around, obviously. But you shot on the Vineyard, and did you mention that the president was just down the road while you were shooting?
The previous president, yeah. Obama was down the street, literally, I think within a mile or so from where we were shooting, which was, again, totally by chance. Obviously, we would have rather he not be there, but it actually turned out to be kind of effective because he had to shut down all of the, the flight pads.
All the airspace was shut down over the island.
So it was actually pretty easy to record sound because there weren't planes flying by all the time.
Yeah.
There was one point when I think we were lighting some pyrotechnics on the beach and got a little worried that the Coast Guard was coming to get us because Obama was close by. But no, otherwise it was pretty easy going.
Yeah, kind of surreal.
Always grateful to Obama for his help on the movie.
Yeah.
So do you guys have plans to collaborate again?
I don't know. I hope someday to. But David, it's been a kind of long process of of getting this film finished. It was a few years in the editing. We finally brought in a really excellent editor that kind of helped. I was kind of toiling with it on my own for probably longer than I should have, and then David brought in an excellent editor friend of his,
Nick Ellsberg,
that really helped to kind of save the film. But in that interim, David has gone to school to be a writer and director himself. Won a Student Academy Award in the meantime, and so it seems like our collaboration would probably take a different shape in the future. Maybe I would be sweeping up on one of his sets or doing the catering, perhaps. But yeah.
Okay, so Automatic at Sea, it's again directed by Matthew Lessner and produced and starring David Henry Gerson, is currently available for streaming on various platforms. Which ones, guys?
Yeah, you can see it on iTunes, on Amazon Prime, Amazon Normal Video. I think it's on Google Play. But I would recommend watching it on Vimeo On Demand, which can be accessed in any country in the world and has some great pre-show trivia to enjoy as well.
Yeah, you get a special bonus feature if you get it through Vimeo On Demand. So I would recommend that for anybody that's particularly interested. We did a screening here in LA at the ArcLight in June, and we had the opportunity to, we've tried to do, mildly kind of immersive things in each of the screenings that we've had the opportunity to. So we created a kind of custom kind of pre-show trivia, like you might see it like a smaller, like when I would go see a movie like in a small town that I grew up in, there would be like, Brad Pitt was in which 1999 Academy Award winning film with his twin brother, and then like a shadow picture that then turns into a photo of who was I talking about?
Brad Pitt.
Ben Affleck, Brad Pitt. So we kind of created our own pre-show trivia that's directly related to the film, so that if you watch it before the film, you'll have a perhaps more rich or deeper understanding of the film. Maybe get a deeper, a deeper dive if that's your thing. So.
And you can also get more information if you go to the website, correct?
Or it's just www.automaticatsea.com.
We'll take you there. Can I ask you one thing before we go? Did we talk about, or did you hear about the Automatic at Sea's involvement in the Pizzagate thing that happened last year? Are you familiar with that at all?
No, I'm not sure I did. I mean, I think I heard a little bit about Pizzagate, but I don't know anything about this film's involvement in it.
It's just an interesting tidbit. It's been just about a year ago now, but I think it still manages to be sort of relevant. So basically, we were getting ready to, getting all our materials ready for the screening at Slamdance, and I was working on the synopsis for the film, which I'd been trying to work on for like a year. It's kind of a difficult film. You were maybe poking fun earlier, I don't know, when you were reading that little blurb there.
For those listening, I was kind of pretending I was reading the synopsis, or I was sort of telling the synopsis off the top of my head, but I was actually reading some marketing language off your website, I believe, or off. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I feel like it's a difficult film to summarize. So I was kind of procrastinating on doing that, and I checked my email, and there was like a email from YouTube saying that I had a comment on one of my films. And David and I, before we made this film, we made a short film together called Chapel Perilous that was at Sundance a few years ago.
Won the Audience Award in 2014.
Won the Audience Award. So it had been like a year since anybody had commented on the film, but I had like notifications that if someone commented, I got an email. And I checked that email, and it said that someone had just posted #Pizzagate on the film. And that seemed kind of odd to me because there's no pizza in the film, and I didn't really think much else of it. I went back to trying to do what I was trying to do. And then the next day, kind of same thing. I'm kind of procrastinating, writing this thing, check the email, another comment on the same film, Chapel Perilous, and this one says something to the effect of secret pedophiles will pay #Pizzagate. And I was like, okay, this is weird. What is this? So I started Googling and was reading about this thing, #Pizzagate. This story that kind of stemmed from the hacked emails of John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign chair. There were, various stories that came out, but it seemed like there were people that were digging through all these emails and kind of looking for any nefarious actions that they could find. And they found this series of emails between the owner of a pizza parlor in Washington, D.C., who had a number of fundraisers for different Democratic candidates over the years, and he'd been emailing apparently with Podesta about having a fundraiser for Clinton there. Somehow this string of emails, at some point someone took a leap. Apparently more recently they've been saying that it might have had something to do with Russian bots, but this story was created that there was a child sex trafficking ring being run out of the basement of this pizza place, and there was all this kind of press going on, people talking about this story, this kind of fake news story that was getting out there. And as I went to the bottom of this kind of insane story, I read the name James Alefantis, who is the name of the owner of the pizza parlor, and who just so happened to be a friend of David's, and he had been an executive producer on Chapel Perilous and Automatic at Sea. So it seems that when the story was coming out at this pizza parlor and people are Googling this guy's name, his IMDb comes up, and he's only ever worked on 3 films, and 2 of them are our films. And so people then started digging into our films, and at that point the film hadn't been released yet. All that was really out was like the Kickstarter page and some initial information, although we did have an IMDb page for it. And this synopsis that I had been attempting to write, for a film that's kind of difficult to describe, the final sentence of the synopsis, as it had already existed on IMDb, mentioned something about this young woman trapped in a world of feverish visions and dimensional shifting and secret pizza. And I used the term secret pizza. There's a scene in the film, this kind of key scene towards the end, where Eve finds this kind of magical piece of pizza. But in the world of these kind of online trolls that were creating this Pizzagate story, when they connected these dots, they looked up this guy James Alefantis, saw that he had produced this 2 films with us, and then saw the mention of pizza in the synopsis. That seemed to be like this smoking gun in their world. And so after all checking all this, I checked Twitter and didn't have notifications set up there, but had all of these messages and threats from various people accusing me of being an operative of the Clinton Foundation, accusing the film, both of our films, of being propaganda for the Democratic Party, for the Clinton Foundation. I called David, and he was being contacted. Both of our actresses were being harassed and contacted on social media. Everybody is kind of coming at us and making all these crazy accusations. Crazy message board stuff, accusing... Go ahead. Sorry?
This is just a great example of the cyclone of chaos that is going on right now as a result of Russian, tampering in our government and in our technology. It's just crazy what we're putting up with. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. Jesus.
It was so crazy too, because in some ways it felt like, on my part, I had been kind of almost unknowingly complicit in putting something, because I think the film in some ways, even though they didn't have access to the film, only kind of pieces of it, it's a film that really invites interpretation. A lot of the work that I do is kind of inviting interpretation to a certain degree, and it was a really weird kind of twist of fate to realize that when you're inviting interpretation, that you're really inviting any potential interpretation. And a lot of my work has had a lot of kind of intentionally oblique kind of symbolism. There's a lot of symbols that are kind of recurrent throughout my work. And it was very bizarre because these people were pulling together all these different threads. I mean, it was very interesting because I don't know that anybody has ever watched my work with the degree of scrutiny that these people were. In particular, the short film that we made together, there's several people who have made like 45-minute long documentaries, like dissecting every shot in the film and like identifying all the symbolism in each image and talking about what that means and then linking it to other works that we had done. It was a very like, I kind of said it was a
very scholarly work on Matthew, and came out of the Pizzagate scandal.
Well, and weird too, because I think anybody that's creating something like would hope that at some point people would be watching your work, with this attention to detail. Granted, this was not the audience that I was intending, but there was something definitely interesting about having people pay attention in this way, and also something very bizarre that the film, as we were discussing earlier, is so inviting, entertaining this sort of horror that comes from not being able to tell what's true, what's real, what's reality, and so again there was this kind of snake eating its own tail thing of like that's what the film is trying to address, and then it's being swallowed up into this thing that's kind of exemplifying what it's trying to express in the first way. It's
disgusting, it's horrifying, and you know what? Maybe just a little bit flattering.
Listen, Variety has not yet compared Matthew to Kubrick, but these Pizzagate people have. So, they must have something right.
Yeah, as you were describing this, I was thinking about that documentary about Stanley Kubrick, that, conspiracy theory, what is it, Rodney Asher's documentary. What was it called again?
Yeah, the Room 237?
Yeah, Room 237.
Yeah.
There's a very kind gentleman who gave some support to the film initially, named Leon Vitali, who was Kubrick's first AD. He was his assistant, not really his first AD. He was his assistant on The Shining, and he was in Barry Lyndon, who was very helpful to us in the beginning of making this film. And his point of view on it, on Automatic at Sea, was calling it a beautiful coming-of-age story, which I thought was really interesting in a way of seeing the film that I'd never thought of before. That's all about that story.
Well, I think it's valid just that everybody has their own interpretation anyway.
So thanks to this conversation, probably now my podcast will get sucked into the vortex of Pizzagate. Thanks very much for that.
Yeah.
I believe Alex Jones is on too.
I wrote an article about this thing for Filmmaker magazine, like right around the time of Slamdance last year, that kind of ties it all together in a way that I was really happy with. So maybe people will want to check that out as well.
Oh, if I can remember, I'll put the link in the show notes when I'm preparing the episode.
That would be awesome. Yeah, it's when I'm proud of my writing. I feel like I did a good job. Yeah, I'd like you to please check it out someday. So nice to talk to you again. Thank you very much.
Okay, guys, it was great talking to you. Thanks, and come back anytime. I really would love to have you back on the show.
Yeah, congratulations again, and have a great day.
Thank you, Adam. And remember, tune in to Filmwax Radio.